Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to another episode on J of All Trades. Today I'm standing in my shower here and I just finished renovating this entire shower. I just finished all the tiling and all the grout, and now I'm ready to install the shower faucet set. This entire set will include a faucet, a handheld shower, and the shower head. The first thing I'm doing here is I'm removing a plug off of this fitting, and once I get this plug off, I'll be able to install my shower head. When you're doing this, you may get some residual water that was sitting inside the pipe. Once you get the plug off, you want to make sure that inside the fitting there's no debris sitting there, and if there is, just make sure you clean it out. This particular shower that I'm installing today is called a rain shower head. So what I'm beginning to do here is I'm beginning to wrap some Teflon around the threading, and I'm going to go about 5 times around just to make sure that this is fully sealed up. This will minimize any possibilities of leaks, and it'll make the connection nice and tight. Keep in mind that there's all different types of Teflon tape out there with varying thicknesses. So for some of you out there, you may have to wrap your Teflon tape less, or you may have to wrap it around some more, depending on the thickness of your Teflon tape. Now here is a cover that covers the fitting into the wall, and so you want to put that on first before you screw this on. I strongly recommend hand starting this. You don't want to use a tool to start this off because you want to feel that you're really threading this on correctly. You don't want to cross thread this. Once you feel this getting tight and you can't turn it any longer, you can grab an adjustable wrench, and I've used this protective packaging to protect the finish of this arm when I'm tightening. You definitely don't want to use any of these tools on the finish directly because it will scratch the finish. Another alternative to protecting this would be using a cloth around here, and that'll prevent you from damaging the finish on here. When you have everything installed, you can use a little bead of caulking to go around that trim to hold it in place. Now here I'm ready to install the shower head, and this is a rain shower head. So it's very wide and it's built to mimic rainfall. And as you can see, it has plenty of little orifices there. And on the other side, you're going to remove this protective cap. And inside, you're going to see a gasket in there, and you want to make sure that gasket is there because that's going to create the seal between this arm and the shower head. You want to start this off again by hand, and you're going to keep tightening all the way until it stops. Here, the best choice is going to be channel locks and some protection here. You're just going to tighten a little bit to straighten out the head, but you don't want to go too crazy with this because remember, the gasket is already creating a nice seal. Now we've got our rain shower head on there and it's good to go. The next thing is going to be the handheld shower. These are the parts we're going to be installing today, and it comes with a nice long hose. Next, we're going to remove the cap for the handheld shower here. Next, I'm going to put some Teflon here around the threading, and this is the body of the handheld shower. Once you get the Teflon on there, don't forget to put the trim kit on here, and you want to put this on first before screwing this in. I must say I really do like the color of these brushed gold fittings. Now we're just going to hand tighten this again, and we're going to start it by hand just to avoid cross threading it. Don't forget to use the protection around the finish. You really just want to tighten this until it's tight. You really don't want to force this to avoid damaging this fitting. Keep in mind that bigger wrenches give you a lot more leverage, and so you want to be careful with the amount of force that you're using. Now that the body of this handheld shower is in, we're ready to put the hose on there. This hose comes with 2 protective caps on each end, so we're going to remove one side and then we're going to screw this other piece out here. They really do a good job of protecting these ends, and it does also keep that gasket in there, so you want to make sure that gasket is there and in place. Keep in mind that I'm not putting any Teflon on the threading here because the gasket is meant to seal this perfectly. I was also able to get away with just hand tightening this hose on here and just giving it a nice extra turn, and that was enough to seal this up. Over tightening this with a tool can even damage the gasket inside, so you want to be careful. On the other side of the hose, you're going to notice that there is a sleeve that slides over this to protect this. There's also another cap that's screwed in here, so we're going to remove that. And once again, there is a gasket in here. This is the handheld shower, and we're going to just screw this on here and hand tighten. Oop, my gasket fell out. So you want to make sure that gasket is in there, because this will not create a seal if the gasket is not in there. Now that our handheld shower is all set to go, I'm ready to work on this valve body here. This cover was installed to protect this entire valve body because there is some finish behind here that can get damaged during the construction when I'm putting up the cement boards, the tiles, and everything else. And as you can see, everything still looks good. At the top, there is a selector that selects between the faucet, the handheld shower, and the overhead shower. We're going to remove the piece for that selector so I can show you exactly what we need to do for the next part. And this is the trim kit here, and this is going to go around the valve body. Here you're going to see that there's a piece of plastic that protrudes past the tile around the valve body. We're going to need to cut out that piece of plastic that's around there because we're not going to be able to seat this flush around the valve body. And so we're going to be using a sharp knife and we're going to cut that out. Now, as you can see, this blade is very dull because it's been through sheetrock and all kinds of stuff. So you don't want to use that. We're going to remove this blade and we're going to replace it with a nice sharp blade. And now we're going to take this blade and we're going to slowly cut around this piece of plastic and we're going to trim it back to be level with the tiling. When you're doing this, you want to go extremely slow and you want to just let the blade do its job. You don't want to let the blade slip and damage anything on the valve body, or you don't want to slip and cut yourself. So you want to go nice and slow, and I'd advise you to use 2 hands to hold the blade. Holding it with 2 hands gives you a little more leverage and a lot more control. As you can see, I'm using my fingers against the tile, and you can see the strip of plastic is coming off nicely. And there it is, guys. The strip of plastic has been cut out, and now we'll be able to seat this trim piece flush against the tiling. So here, I'm just checking to make sure that there's no plastic piece protruding past the tile that will prevent this trim piece from sitting flush. Now we'll be able to just slide this piece right on there, and we should be all set to go. You can also put a bead of caulk behind there or around the edge when you're done later on. This will give you a nice watertight seal. Now we can install the selector back on there now that the trim piece is on. So we're going to be installing it on that little piece there. So we're going to remove this little plug, and behind the plug there is a tiny set screw here that will allow you to tighten the selector onto the stem. And here I have an Allen key tip that allows me to back this off or screw it in. So you want to back up this set screw and then slide this selector in there on the stem, and now you can turn it in a direction that is easily accessible, and you're able to just tighten this back onto the stem. And remember not to forget to put your rubber plug back in here, and we're gonna just give this a little tug and just make sure that that's in there. So we're all set to go with the selector. Now we're all ready to install this handle, and this handle has the same setup as the selector. We're going to be installing this handle on this square stem here, and this is going to allow us to select between hot and cold water, and we can basically swivel this back and forth. So the easiest way to do this, because of the angle, is start out by inserting your Allen key in here, and then you're going to line up the stem with this square and slide it right in and just tighten. Now we're all set to go with the handle, and don't forget your plug. Now we're ready to install the tub faucet. We're going to remove these 2 set screws here, and that's going to allow us to remove this fitting, and then we're going to install it. Once you get the set screws fully loosened, you'll be able to just pull this right out. Once again, you want to make sure that you wrap some Teflon around the fitting there, and you can see 2 O-rings in there that seals it and prevents water from leaking through. So this slides right in, and then those 2 set screws secure into this fitting. So inside of this fitting, you're going to notice that there's a large Allen key that needs to go in there to tighten this up into the fitting in the wall. This is a 12mm Allen key, and it's extremely large, and it fits right in here, and I'm using a 3/8 inch drive ratchet to screw this in. I'll include a link in the description for this ratchet set. Once again, you want to make sure that you start this fitting by hand, because cross-threading it is easy, especially with this Teflon on here. So you want to kind of feel it out, and then once you get it in there, you can start tightening it up. Now we're ready to install the faucet onto this fitting. We're just going to slide it right onto the fitting and then tighten those 2 set screws in the bottom. I'm using a tiny level to make sure that this is nice and straight. Then I'm going to tighten up the set screws as I leave the level to make sure that this doesn't shift. Now our faucet is all set and ready to go. Now you can turn on the water supply, and we're going to test out all these fittings to make sure that there's no leaks at any of these points. So far, our handheld shower has no leaks, and we're ready to test the rest of the fittings. This shower set allows you to easily select between these fittings by just twisting the selector here, and now we're running our tub faucet. The main thing we're really checking for is any leaks in the back here, underneath, and around the corners of this faucet. And there are no leaks there, so we are all set to go with this one. You also want to make sure that you rotate this handle here to go between different temperatures to make sure that this is working correctly. Now we're going to test the shower head fitting for any leaks, and we want to really look behind here to see if there's any water dripping. So you need to run it for a couple minutes or so and just ensure that with any buildup of pressure, there's no water coming out of here. If you'd like to get a rain shower set like this, I'll include a link in the description below. And I just want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel so you can continue to get more videos like this one.